I'm just going to the light at the bottom of my feet. And when I got there, it all became very bright. And I was at the top of the ceiling in the operating room looking down at my body. When I look at my body, I went, oh, there I am. And then I look at me and I go, oh, and here I am too. There's no trauma, drama, negativity, hurt, or pain. You're just totally happy at that point, total bliss. Okay, but I heard and saw everything that was occurring in the operating room where my spouse was crying his eyes out, not because he'd missed me, but because he knew he was going to jail. And the two nurses in the room were saying, oh, it's such a shame. She's only 23 and here she is dying. And the doctor said, time of death. And then at that point, I turned around I feel like I'm floating in the air. And I turn around and I'm like maybe 5 feet above the ground, standing in clouds.
I'm here today with Amy Jamison. Amy will share with us the story of her near death experience in 1976 from a collapsed lung resulting from walking pneumonia. Amy had an out of body trip to heaven where she encountered a dark entity, two angels, three spirits of deceased relatives, and Jesus. Amy, thank you so much for being my guest today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Tia. I appreciate you having me very much.
Tell me how this started for you. You had walking pneumonia and you
Okay.
actually died?
Well, first of all, a little tiny bit of background. I was born and raised a Irish strict Irish Catholic religion all the way up through 10th grade. So I always believed in angels, the afterlife, and Jesus. What I had trouble with believing in was two things, particularly. At first was I didn't believe in a hell because, in my opinion, when they were teaching you that Jesus died for everyone, that means everyone. He didn't say, "Well, hey, I'm not dying for you who killed somebody or you that did this." But that being said, there's several levels of heaven, like going up a stepping ladder where you do certain things and you're in certain places. Could be your hell, could be total darkness. I don't know. I didn't have that part of the experience, but I will talk about the entity that I did have the experience with, that one, which was a dark entity. Um, Also, the other problem I always had trouble understanding was mind, body, spirit was okay. I got that. But the three people in one, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I didn't even know what Holy Ghost was until I had my near death experience and realized, oh, it's you, it's your soul, the person inside your body. That's who it is. So that's who it was for Jesus when he was human on earth. So now I understand that mind, body, spirit, three people in one. But it took me forever to understand that. Just like I don't expect a lot of people who don't believe or they're very religious. I've been ridiculed all my life, called, oh, you're a liar, you're making it up for attention, that can't possibly happen. I said, even to my family, my mother would say, well, you don't know nothing, only Jesus knows that. I go, where do you think I got it from? And you believe in he died and came back, correct? And she said, yes. I go, well, I don't know why you're having a hard time believing that I died and came back. She goes, you're doing it for attention. If I was doing it for attention, I wouldn't have 40 years to 50 years of it just lying to somebody. That's not me. I don't do that. Okay, so here's what happened during the time when I had my near death experience. I was 23 years old. I was married at that time, and the spouse that I was married to, unfortunately, he did not believe in religious or uh, Jesus or anybody like that. He believed that aliens were the superpower and aliens were our God per se. At the time, I had struggles and hard times believing that. But in the end, I'll explain to you why I do think that could be a possibility as well. Okay, so in 1976, I had walking pneumonia for 2 weeks and I didn't know it. I thought that I just had a bad cold. I was working as a dental assistant in the office with mask and gloves on and coughing like crazy all the time. After a couple of weeks of that, driving home from work one night, I felt heaviness in my left arm and I kind of thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on. But still, I'm a very energetic person. So once I got home after work, I did 6 loads of laundry with my spouse's help, cooked and cleaned the house. And I was a smoker at that time. So I sat down and smoked a cigarette. And it got to the point where I couldn't hardly breathe. I couldn't even smoke a cigarette. I put them down and I was sitting there struggling to breathe and just coughing and gasping. So I turned to my husband and I said, would you please call me an ambulance or take me to the hospital? I'm not feeling well. I'm really having trouble breathing. And he goes, oh, you're just a hypochondriac. There's nothing wrong with you. About 5 more minutes of it, and I turned to him again and I said, please call me an ambulance. I have to go to emergency room. He goes, no, you're a hypochondriac. So I got up and walked over to the home phone and I dialed the local emergency room, and the doctor on call talked to me. He said, are you there by yourself? And I said, no, my husband's here. He says, put him on the phone. And then my husband listened a few minutes, and then his eyes got real big and he slammed the phone down and said, let's go. I said, what did he say to you? He said, he told me he could tell from talking to you, you had extreme difficulty trying to breathe and talk, and that I would be held totally responsible if you die on the way there or in process of treatment. So I said, good. So we went to that hospital, to that emergency room. And when we did that, they took a chest x-ray and they diagnosed me and said that I had a collapsed lung. So at that point, they said we need to do a chest tube insertion, and got me prepped in the operating room. And they started the chest tube insertion. And right when I felt it go through my ribs, I just blacked out. And when I blacked out, it was like, okay, my eyes open, but I only see total blackness. I wasn't scared. I just was confused. I didn't know at first where I was. And then I see a little tiny white light at the bottom of my feet. So this is the way I describe it, because it's the only way I know to describe it. It was like me, my soul, my person inside was a little tiny miniature part of me was sitting in like a tornado black tube tunnel or something like that. And I was going from my head down to my feet. When I got it to about my heart level, and can't explain this either, just tell you how I saw it, there was a very large 7 foot man wrapped up like a black mummy with black mummy tape all over him. I don't know who or what that was. He reached his arms out and tried to grab me as I was spinning by, and luckily he did not. And at that point, I didn't know who he was, and I left that thought. I'm just going to the light at the bottom of my feet. And when I got there, it all became very bright. And I was at the top of the ceiling in the operating room looking down at my body. When I look at my body, I went, oh, there I am. And then I look at me and I go, oh, and here I am too. There's no trauma, drama, negativity, hurt, or pain. You're just totally happy at that point, total bliss. Okay, but I heard and saw everything that was occurring in the operating room, where my spouse was crying his eyes out, not because he'd missed me, but because he knew he was going to jail. And the two nurses in the room were saying, oh, it's such a shame. She's only 23 and here she is dying. And the doctor said, time of death. And then at that point, I turned around I feel like I'm floating in the air. And I turn around and I'm like maybe 5 feet above the ground, standing in clouds. The first thing I see when I look to my left are two angels, a little girl angel with long blonde hair. She was probably about 8 years old. She had on the white robe, big wings, and sandals. And then there was a little baby angel that was flying around in the air with reddish, curly, blondish type hair. And he was laughing, holding on to her robe and just laughing. And then I went from that look over to my far right. And when I went to my far right, I saw 3 relatives who were already deceased. They probably passed anywhere from their 60s to 80s, but they looked like they were in their late 30s, early 40s, and I recognized them. We hugged and greeted each other. And there was a very golden light right behind them, which I was going to try to get to. And all of a sudden, it felt like somebody just pulled me right to the center of the area, and I was standing in front of Jesus himself. And he said, without speaking or moving his lips, it was like mind to mind, he said, it is not your time to be here. It is too soon. You have a lot more work to do, so you have to go back. And he raised his right arm, and when he lowered it, I was back in my body. There was a sheet over me. The Catholic priest was standing beside me, had just finished giving me the last rites, and I blew on the sheet, and he saw it. And when he saw that, he pulled the sheet down. He goes, okay, so young lady, you're a miracle. You were dead, and you've had an experience where you tell me about it. And I said, yes, but I'm angry. He goes, well, why are you angry? I said, because I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay where I was. I was so happy. And he goes, well, it wasn't your time. Of course, he repeated what Jesus said. And then from that point forward, I started having really strange events occur around me. Like one of them was, I lived in this apartment and I would turn the kitchen light on and I'd be sitting near it in the living room and the kitchen light switch would be on, but it would go off. but the light switch was still in the up position. And it kept doing that, like flickering. I'm like, well, I don't know what that is, but somebody must be trying to get my attention. And then as I'm looking, a loaf of bread flies off the top of the fridge. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't do that. And there's nobody in here but me. So that also had to be some kind of sign or signal from something. It was very confusing. And I tried many things to just like pray, like certain prayers with white candles that were frozen in the freezer, and talking to people that were mediums and stuff like that. And it calmed down for a little while. But a few years later, when I was married to a different person, we had an Arab bed and breakfast, a large 2-story home out in the country in California. And he was every night waking up about 3 o'clock in the morning and saying, quit pulling on my feet and don't touch me. And I'm like, I look at him and I go, you're sound asleep, you're dreaming, you're having a nightmare. I'm not touching you or pulling your feet. And that happened probably 3 nights in a row, exact time. Then the next day, he went out to the property and was doing landscaping far away. I was tired. I decided, because he kept me up, I decided I was going to take a nap in the afternoon. So I lay down. And all of a sudden, when I'm pretty good and asleep, I feel a hand on each of my legs, take one leg and put it on top of the other and hold the hand there where I couldn't move my feet or move. And I look and there's no one there that I can see, but something's doing it. So then all of a sudden it pulls me from the top of the bed over to the edge of the bed onto the floor. Well, I jumped up and I'm like yelling. I'm like, I'm looking out the window. My spouse is way out there. There's no one in the room with me. I couldn't see anybody. And that was, I guessed, okay, that had to be that dark entity that attached to me, because I've heard that that can happen. At that time, I had a lot of trauma, drama, and negativity. So that's what they go towards, that they attach to those feelings. So the next night, when my husband was there in the bed and we were sleeping, I felt a presence over the top of me. But right before it got over the top of me, I felt a hand run up my leg, and I look at him and he's sound asleep. It's not him. So I open my eyes fully and I look, and there's, I don't know if you ever saw a movie called Ghost with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze. It was, you know, those black cloaked looking figures that would float in the air to get people and take them away. That is what I saw over my body at just about like 2 hands away from me. And I felt it was sucking my air out of me, and I could feel it like make and hear it make that noise. And I grabbed my husband's hand and woke him up, and he goes, there's a dark thing above your body. I go, oh, you see it too? He goes, yes, I do. He goes, that's what we call a succubus. It's trying to take all your good, positive, happy energy from your near-death experience and take it away. He goes, we're going to pray. So we prayed out loudly and yelled and said, you need to go to the love and light of Jesus. You are no longer welcome in this home. And it left. And that was about 5 years of different incidences, by the way, that I experienced with that dark entity. I have a lot of it written down in my book about different things that happened from it. What I didn't know was at that time was that when it leaves you, it goes towards the next person in the home or who had been in the home who has trauma, drama, negativity, hurt, and pain. Went to my daughter's house because she and my granddaughter were living there when that occurred. And it held her, it got her by the neck and pulled her up the wall in the bed with her husband beside her. All she could do was kick her feet, and he woke up and pulled her down and helped her. They had to do sagings, blessings of the home. Me too. I did it. I tried holy water. I tried the salt, the garlic. I called different bishops and priests, and they came and blessed their home and mine. And then finally it went away. But that was about 5 years. Then shortly thereafter, I started seeing future events before they occurred, like a movie trailer, like I would see the beginning, the middle, and what would happen in the end of this person. It would repeat to me until over and over and over again, like a bad nightmare every night, until I decided, okay, I need to get rid of this, this dreaming, whatever this is. I don't like it. It's scary. Excuse me. And so I told the person that I saw. Most of the time it was my sister and my niece, and or very, very close family or friends. I would see things that were going to happen to them, like stabbings, kidnappings, fires, bad stuff. And I would tell them. And of course, my sister, being like my mother and strict Irish Catholic, didn't believe it. So she goes, well, it happened, but it didn't happen just like you said. So you're still crazy. You don't know that. So that's what I had to deal with for 40, 50 years of people saying and doing that until I wrote a book about it. I had it all the information in writing for about 40 years. And I went to sleep one night and it was like these little old people, men and women, they called themselves the overseers of the ancestors of the Akashic records, a big building up in heaven or somewhere where that is, where they have the records of everybody everywhere. And so they were saying, okay, you're going to get up tomorrow morning and you're going to set an alarm for 5 minutes, then 10, then 15, and you're going to start writing. Doesn't matter what you write, just start writing. And after I did that, after the third time, I just kept writing. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to write my book about what happened. And they said, yes, you're going to write a book, you're going to get it published in 6 months, and you're going to get it out, and you're going to start telling people what happened. So I started looking for local events that would have like a booth where you could go hold a talk about your book or whatever and do that. And I did that around town to many different events. And that's how I got known. But when I went looking for flea markets to have a booth at, I kept getting this one ad on my pages. No matter what web page I was on, it would pop up Sweehaw, SWIHA. I'm like, what is Sweehaw? I got aggravated and I turned the computer off and went and sat down and watched TV. And guess what the first ad was on the TV? It was Sweehaw. I said, okay, God, I'm taking that as a message. You're trying to tell me something. So I shut the TV off and I called the school to explain what they did. It's a college that's nationally accredited in Tempe, Arizona. It's called Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. I took 4-year program intensively in 3.5 years. And I became a life coach, a hypnotherapist, an ordained non-denominational minister. And of course, I wrote and published my book. And the book is called Visions from Above, My Journey, My Destiny by Amy Jamison, which is my pen name. My given name is Cherie Lee. And at the end of this, when we're done, I'll tell you how to contact me, because I also do complimentary to start, but then now I'm doing like $10 for a 2-question positive angel card reading. I'm an intuitive, meaning I can feel empathically your feelings and emotions before you express them and tell you a little bit about yourself. I also do hypnotherapy. So the card reading I'll do for $10 for 2 questions. And then the hypnotherapy session, I'm really good at helping you find your life purpose or release any trauma, drama, hurt, or pain, or any habits you want to get rid of with the hypnotherapy. And I charge $50 for that. Normally it's $100 an hour, but I'm doing it for $50. So that is what I do. I've had 45, almost 50 years worth of visions that I would see before they occurred. I did see 5 people die that were relatives, and it happened just like I saw. And I also had spirits visit me at my bedside before I was sound asleep, telling me, give a message to so-and-so tomorrow, this is going to happen. And I did that, and it did happen. So those are the things I've been dealing with all my life, and finally got more used to it, and went to Mind, Body, Spirit College in the early 60s and graduated there. So I'm very happy to be doing all that. This is my passion.
You talked about the spirits test you, and then you'll be given kind of a gift if you pass the test. Tell me about that.
Okay, so that was part of my book as well. The ancestors in heaven, those little old gray-haired men and women that showed up in my vision, which before I knew it was a vision, I called it a dream. Once you are dreaming and you wake up to get a drink of water, if you get out of bed, once your feet touch the floor, the dream is gone. If your feet touch the floor and you have full detail of the other dream, it's a vision. And it's something you're supposed to pay attention to and give the messages to the people in it, or write it down and talk about it. You know, it's not your job to convince them what you're saying is true, because you're talking about undoing hundreds of years of religion. Religion is meant to be, and there's that other part I'm going to bring up again. So I believe over 40, 50 years of experience of talking to so many people who have had light experiences or near-death experiences, that each person has a happy place in their mind. When they get fully stressed or upset, they go to that place in their mind and think about it. So I believe that when you pass, you're going to go to your happy place, whether it's a garden, an ocean, a lake, a forest, whatever it is, and whatever you're doing. That's your happy place. And you will see your Jesus. When I say your Jesus, I believe he's all the same person. But there are so many religions and so many nationalities and so many people that in order for everyone to have a connection with him, they have to see who they were taught to believe. So if you were from India, you would see a blue goddess, or different people like that. Mormons believe in, I can't remember his name anymore, their prophet. I still think it's all the same. You just connect in a different way, and we're all tied together that way. My ex-husband that I was talking about when I had my near-death experience, he believed in aliens. He didn't believe in Jesus or religion or any of that. And at first, before I went to college and had all that experience in teaching, I called him crazy. I just couldn't understand how he couldn't believe in a creator. He believed it was an alien. And then I had my near-death experience. And then I said to myself a few years later, I go, he has superpowers. He's talking to you and moving you around without touching you, and he's not moving his lips when he speaks to you. So he is a superpower. Is he an alien? I don't know. I didn't have that type of experience, but I'm sure that when he passes, he may have that type of experience because that's how he connects. They believe more in the astrology and the scientific world. So people of that nature, I believe, will see them in a different way.
So the experience we have is directly connected to what we believe in.
Exactly. That's the way I believe, my personal opinion. Now you're asking me about a test. So those little old people, gray hair, men and women, I call the ancestors, they said to me I thought it was a dream, it was a vision. We're going to test you, we're going to give you a test. And I'm going to tell you what that is in a second. If you pass that test, we'll tell you the name of your birth father. Okay, so I believed it, so I did it. So the test was I would be introduced to this young, good-looking man. Mind you, I was married to my spouse at the time that didn't believe in medical. And you see how you do. So I met him, I talked to him. He asked me out. I said, no, I'm married. I'm happily married, and I wouldn't do that. And then I hear the ancestor saying, okay, you passed the test. You did good. Now your birth father is a family member. Well, that wasn't correct either because at age 55, I don't know what that test was about. So at age 55, I found out that I'm one of 6 or 7 women that my birth father had an affair with. I'm the product of one of them. He was married 7 times, divorced 7 times, and he had affairs in between, my birth father. Unfortunately, when I found about him, I did not get to meet him because he died 3 months prior, but I did get to meet 2 sisters, and now I have a third one I'm connecting with. So the father I grew up around was my stepdad, very alcoholic and abusive, and I knew he couldn't be my father because they fought every year on my birthday about when they were married and when I was born. So to me, it was like an intuitive thing. I always felt it. One thing I will tell you that I tell everybody, the best thing I can tell you from that experience is simply this. When your soul leaves your physical body, when the person inside you, the person you call me or I, when that person leaves the body, there's no attachment to trauma, drama, negativity, hurt, or pain. So let's say you and your sister had a horrible argument and she said horrible things to you the night before you die, and then you die the next day, and she doesn't get to say, oh God, I'm so sorry, I never should have said that. Well, you won't remember it and you won't look at her like that. When you see her from the afterlife, you will just look with love and kindness and happiness, and only the good memories go with you. You won't have that memory, unfortunately. So all the people left on earth that are left when people die are the ones who suffer. And that's what I try to help those people with hypnotherapy and life coaching and card reading, and give them some positive direction to let them know it's okay. Let me help you let that go. So that's what I do. I do hypnotherapy, life coaching, spiritual ministry, positive angel card readings, and hypnotherapy sessions. And you can contact me at my email, which is spelled LEECHERIE66 @gmail.com. You can text me, text only, because I am working too. Text me at 602-727-9797 and mention that you saw me on this show, and I can interact with you to help you with things you want to work on.
Thank you so much, Amy, for
No
the
problem.
the help that you're giving people, because I know how difficult it is to lose someone that you love deeply.
Yes.
It's the most difficult thing that you can live through. So to be able to help people move through that and heal, is really just immense amount of good. And if you had one message to leave with the viewers today, one thing that you'd hope that they take away from this conversation, what would that be?
That there positively is an afterlife and a creator. He may appear to you differently, but he's all one and the same person for everyone on earth. And your relatives are going to be in heaven and meet you and your pets. And you're going to go there. If you go to hell, it's going to be Jesus version of your hell on a different level, I believe. Let's say like one guy, a neurologist who never believed in near-death experience in Virginia. I think his name was Eben Alexander, and he had a near-death experience from a car accident. And he came back as a worm in the ground. All he saw was black all day long for a while before he went up different levels. And he says that about that, how you go up to different levels. I have talked to a couple of people over my lifespan who said they were in a burning fire hell and saw and heard people screaming and stuff. I didn't experience that. I did not experience a life review. Now, keep in mind, I was only dead 3 minutes. It felt like forever, but with only 3 minutes, maybe I just experienced the part I was supposed to experience and that was it. We didn't do a life review. I wasn't dead long enough. I think that's what it was. When I say dead, I mean my body, physical body, because your soul never is. You will live on forever in your soul. I do also believe, personally, in my opinion, reincarnation, where your soul, once it learns the level you're supposed to learn, as if you're going through levels like through school, then you are reincarnated into a body that's being born. Because how else could he come up with all those hundreds and millions and billions and trillions of people's souls?
That's true. When we
Yeah.
reincarnate, do we always come to Earth, or are there other realms or
You
universes?
know, I have met two people who told me they were Placebians from another planet. Well, I couldn't argue yes or no with them because I don't know, but they were totally different and super nicer than the rest of us on Earth. So I'm going to believe them. There's so many strange things happen in the world now that if it happens to a lot of people and they're all opening up and awakening, as we call it, they're telling everyone now that we didn't used to tell anybody back then. It would take 20, 30, 40 years to tell somebody what happened because you always got talked about in a bad way. Oh, you're of the devil, you're a demon, you're the dark side, all that stuff. So,
Well, and I'm sorry too that your story wasn't believed at first. I hope that now people are starting to become more open to your experience. I think there's been
right,
a lot of changes happening on Earth. And back then in the 70s, Dr. Moody's book had just come out where he coined the term near-death
exactly.
experience. It was just becoming known, and you had it
Right.
so early, it was just not even known. So,
Right. People just kept looking at you and saying, "Oh, you're so crazy." I'm telling you, you're so crazy. Nobody knows that. Like my sister would always say that, and still does. They're a little bit more receptive now to the afterlife. They start to believe me because they've met some people who have had near death experience. So now they're believing it. It's not just me. My mother was telling them, "Oh, she's doing it for attention. Don't believe her," which wasn't true. But I couldn't change that thought. She was born strict Irish Catholic, so she's never going to believe that.
right. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that people are coming around for
Yeah.
you.
Me too. Yes, I love to help people. So,
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we missed?
um, well, like the different people that I've met who have had different experiences. Like one girl was a member of, I want to call it the Bloods or something like that in California, a very bad gang who killed people. And she said it without telling me the words. I said, "I know what you're trying to tell me, that you did some horrible things." She goes, "Well, one night in my sleep, Jesus came and he took me on a train. It was a very fast train ride. And he's talking to me, sitting beside me all of a sudden. And then he picks me up by the feet and he dips me down like through the floor of the train. And I'm in hell. I see a burning fire pit and people screaming and hollering. And I'm begging him to pull me back up. And she said she's had to say that I believe in you and I will repent for him to pull her back up or she would have been in hell. Well, I don't know. I believe that we make our own hell with our good free will choices. Like people we hang with, drugs, alcohol, whatever the things we do, it's influenced by other people or by our parents. Maybe we're born into it with addictions. I believe that we all have our own hell going through that. I mean, you really, in my opinion, don't even have to go to a fiery pit. If you want to have hell on earth, do all the bad things you shouldn't be doing and you'll be experiencing it, you know? But Jesus died for everybody, not just the good people. So remember that we all sin. No one's better than the other. And that's what I like to leave people knowing. You know, I'm honest about that. I don't put myself up on a pedestal.
I think that's so important because a lot of times we forget that and
Right,
we want to judge our, our fellow human beings, and it's really
right.
not up to us.
And judgment is the worst thing we can do. That's God's job, not ours. So we're supposed to let him do it. Anyway, that was my experience. And um, I've held on to it. I'm 71 now. I've held on it for many, many years. And I remember it like it was yesterday. So
Well, thank you, Amy, for being my guest. This has been a pleasure for me. I really appreciate you coming on to share your experience with us.
thank you. I really appreciate it too. And I can say, have a good day. Your blessings to you and everybody watching. And remember, you can contact me if you would like to talk about my book or what I do, card readings, hypnotherapy at LEECHERIE66 at gmail.com or 602-727-9797 texting. Um, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. There are usually a list of people by the time I do one of these podcasts. I'll have 30 or 40 people afterwards, which is great. Just saying it might take a little while. And excuse me, I am in grief too. I may not look it, but March 30th, we lost our 2-month-old, 1 week great grandbaby. I lost her here at home. She just died in her sleep of a lung collapse. Ironically, the same day that I died on back in 76.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry to
Yeah,
hear that.
it was hard, very hard. It was my granddaughter's first child. So yeah,
Well, I
but
hope
she's
that
in heaven.
finds peace and comfort.
Right, she's in heaven. Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, thank you, Tia. I've had a great time talking with you. And sometimes, sorry I talk so fast. Sometimes I want to make sure I get it all in there and I don't forget anything.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people, and that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.